Hello and welcome back to another episode of On the Rocks Masterclass series. I'm Jess, Prospector's head of new media, and I'm excited to introduce today's Masterclass episode. Today, we are digging into mining sustainability intelligence with Anastasia Kuskova, CEO and founder of beSirius. Anastasia is an accomplished leader in the sustainability space, named among Win 100's Inspirational Women in Mining, winner of the COP29 Green Innovation Challenge, and recognized as the #1 AI impact maker by Women in AI. Drawing from her experience as a former sustainability officer at a multibillion-dollar metal producer and co-founder of Resource, Anastasia understands firsthand the challenges mining companies face with sustainability reporting. She'll be sharing practical insights on how companies can move beyond bureaucratic reporting to create actual value, including how AI-powered solutions can transform sustainability from a compliance burden to a strategic advantage. So grab your drink of choice and join Emily and Anastasia in their discussion about navigating complex reporting standards, connecting sustainability to financial performance, and turning sustainability teams into revenue generators rather than cost centers. Cheers!
Anastasia, welcome to On the Rocks. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Likewise, thanks for having me.
We've been trying to get this one up for our listeners for a while, so I know everyone's going to be really excited. I'm really excited to talk about this, and certainly as a masterclass in particular. So, looking at this as a masterclass on mining sustainability intelligence, right? 101 from reporting to revenue. I think this will be a great one for folks that are really interested in and how do you kind of get into the details of sustainability and data and what that drives.
Yeah, exactly. Let's dive in.
Okay. So to kick it off, you've been on both sides as both a sustainability officer and now you're building a technology solution for sustainability. What do you see as the fundamental challenges in sustainability reporting for mining or exploration companies?
Yeah, I think the overarching challenge is that we have just so many frameworks and requirements, and as mining companies operate usually in in various jurisdictions. Your headquarters is in one place, your operations are in 25 different countries, and legislation is always different. And also, like right now, there is literally no alignment between all of the standards and requirements. And also, every stakeholder or beyond regulators wants data in their own way. So ultimately, sustainability became compliance and bureaucracy, I would say, or like admin work. Reports are now 90% of the work. And I think that's the fundamental challenge, because that's not why we need sustainability in mining, right? Not to do reports.
Or more reports?
Is actually to do something and then report
Right.
on that. But doing something should be the bigger part of the deal, not the leftover on the time that you've got left between the reporting cycles, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've mentioned that sustainability right now is about 20% numbers and 80% narrative. Could you elaborate on that perspective?
Yeah, I think this is also like the fundamental misconception about sustainability data. Everyone thinks that it's just the same as accounting data. It's not. Like it really is not. And like if anyone ever worked on sustainability report or in responding to customer questionnaire, they know that it's really 20-30% numbers. Rest is the narrative, how you do things. What are you committed? Your targets, what are the processes behind, etc. So, and you can't really, the problem is you can't really compare two companies on, usually you cannot compare on two digits, right? You need to look deeper. And I think a very good example of that is that for carbon border adjustment mechanism, European Commission, they did a lot of assessments for benchmarks, and they realized that for iron ore they cannot come up with a benchmark, because for carbon footprint, a carbon footprint would be like the most numerical thing you can think of, the most terrible thing you can think of. It's not. So, they realize that it's so fundamentally dependent on the ore, on the location, that you cannot really compare stuff and like benchmark it and just say you have to be this. So I think that's the fundamental difficulty of sustainability data, but also the opportunity as well. And we need to account for that, and we build systems for sustainability teams. That it's not going to be accounting, it's not going to be 10 numbers, the universal P&L that you can use for every company in the world and understand what's happening there in their finances by looking at high level numbers. It's not going to be the same for sustainability.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's so true for so many metrics that companies focus on too, right? It's easier to, and I remember back in my early career, I was a supply chain management consultant, and it was Lean Six Sigma and all that. And like, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, right? There are like all these things that were drilled into you, but there's really so much that you can't capture everything in a number, right? It's
like human rights. Let's talk about human.
Yeah,
like there are that many numbers you can come up with there, like complaint or like I don't know. So it's very limited in terms of numbers. It's much more into the processes and things you do and the things you implement. So and these are the fundamental risks as well. So the key risks in the value chain. So you cannot just say, well, it's just not that important, that's why there are no numbers.
Yeah. Well, and I know that's something I've heard from different folks in the sustainability side of the industry is that kind of drive to have something measurable is also what led kind of earlier on in the ESG, when ESG became the term, right? Instead of like corporate social responsibility, then it became ESG, and like everyone just focused on the E part, the environmental part, because it was the easiest to measure. Right, because it's so much harder to measure social and governance aspects, and that can also that may not be where your big risks are, right? It may not be that environmental is the biggest risk for your project or your company.
True.
Yeah. Kind of as we get into the financial impact, though, of sustainability in mining, let's talk a little bit about the connection between sustainability and financial performance. Like, why should mining companies see sustainability as more than just compliance?
Yeah, well, I think for mining companies, and well, let's say that I always get them, especially when I worked head of sustainability, when I introduce myself and to people from other industries, they would be like, oh, sustainability in mining, like you guys are 30 years industry and blah, blah. So this is so untrue, but also it's actually, we historically paid so much more attention and for much longer time towards communities, governance, compliance, and in working in complex, high-risk jurisdictions that actually mining and metal sector in general is much more focused on sustainability in general. It's much more embedded. It's just, it wasn't called always corporate sustainability. It was called in different ways and was distributed across different departments, but it was there. So, for example, for me, I often say that I built sustainability function from scratch, but actually we had efforts needed to kind of generalize that on a corporate level, right? To put it together. So had a lot of things in place already, and just create a system and a strategy behind that. So the logic that is more up to date with the current requirements. And so in general, I don't think there is even a question why mining metal companies have to look into sustainability, invest into sustainability. We had throughout the last 20, 30 years, and even in the last 2-3 years and this year as well, so many cases where not paying enough attention or just I don't know, just making some mistakes in the way you manage sustainability caused really significant damage to operations. We can speak about the tailing disasters. We can speak about or canceling the contracts and permits
Mm-hmm.
because of the community disturbances, or because environmental permits that were obtained in different times and were not met, in the current situation. So I don't know, the recent case with First Quantum in Panama, right? It's a huge effect on both actually Panama economy and also First Quantum. So, and there are like real financial consequences with millions of dollars at stake, hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. But that's on risks, but that's also on opportunities. And I think in the last years, we've been chasing a lot green premiums, especially in aluminum and in steel, but also I think in all of the metals that feed into, let's say, in the steel value chain and also in battery value chain. And it's still a bit of a myth. So I think there are certain. So I know for a fact that in steel industry it's possible. It's kind of being influenced by certain players. They try to create those premiums, but there has to be a market. There has to be a desire to pay for that.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting there. Because for a long time, all of the players at the end of the value chain, they would OEMs, etc. They would say, well, it's just the stay in business type of practice. And now we understand that somebody has to pay for it. And probably there will be certain split. So higher marginal players. So usually the ones in the beginning of the value chain, they would probably pay a bit more for that. But also it has to be spread out through the value chain. So there will be green premiums for sure. And I think they already are. We also know from one of our clients that actually used our analytics to develop one of them. Green lines of the metal and to get premiums for that, understanding what actually is important for their stakeholders. And I think that's also the key why green premiums haven't worked before. First, because there wasn't really a deficit for a green or like a need for different green metals, but also because we didn't really understand what our customers want, because usually it's not our direct customers who want the green metal. It's usually customers several steps ahead of us, like tier 2, tier 3. And this ability to learn what's important for them on a very granular level and then embed it into your sustainability strategy and connect that to potential revenues. So this is where I think the key potential for sustainability teams right now, with the current backlash, with the current, ESG is dead type of thingy. I think it's critical for sustainability teams to become very practical and start connecting the dots and not develop green material for the sake of green material, but develop a green material that they know their customers
will pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think folks really underestimate how many steps material goes through, right? From a mine all the way to the final consumer. And that's where also I think so much, and rightly so, like so much pressure falls on the side of the mining company itself, right? But there are all these other steps that the material goes through that have impact on, ESG metrics that also have to be taken into consideration, right? And sometimes it's like those parts, just because of how metal is traded and moved and sold and consumed, are much less visible, in fact, to the general population than an actual mine, right? You don't really use the refinery because typically they're not in the same place as the mine. Nobody sees the transportation impact or all these different factors that go in. So it's like, well, it's dirty because the mine is dirty, right? Or, the mine is the one that's responsible for all of the impact, when, to your point, like you can put a lot at the mine, but you've got to be able to spread that out throughout the value chain.
Yeah. And I think the ability to understand where in the value chain you can get this extra premium, who in the value chain is willing to pay for that, or and like why. Understanding this would be a key knowledge in the next few years for the winner and for the ones who want to capture this green niche.
Yeah, because I always hear people saying like, "Oh, do people want to pay more for, green material in their iPhone?" And I'm like, "Well, but it's not iPhone buyer who's buying copper or rare earths or silver from a mine, right? Like that's not who you have to convince to pay more. You have to convince them to pay more for an iPhone. You got to convince, the middle people to pay more for the ore coming out of the mine, right? Or the facility. Yeah. And they have to feel that they can pass it on. Right.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. And how do you think this connection, do you see it changing how mining companies are approaching investments in sustainability? Like, are you seeing shifts start to happen?
I would say, well, I think in general, mining companies are quite slow in reacting to any changes in the world. But what we're seeing is that in general, in our in the heavy industry, in our part of the world, everyone became more cautious on sustainability and sustainable investments, and the logic behind changed. So before it was, and I think that was a very unhealthy, I would say, logic is like, we're just going to do the right thing. That's going to affect everything in our company. So not really measurable goals, not really clear outcomes, why you want certain rating or what. We just want to be leaders in this. And it's good when you have extra money. When it gets tough, you cut that. And that is the first thing your executive committee would cut, something that doesn't have business case behind it. And I think it's impractical and not really logical to expect that, companies that are essentially the machine for making money for their investors would make decisions that are not supported by numbers in situations where things are tough.
Yeah.
So what we see is that, and it's in general happening everywhere in the market, there is a lot of PR talk that is gone. So PR talk in a sense that, we did something small, I don't know, like a recycling initiative at one of our sites, and now let's publicize that. And then it's like, it's not really connected to your sustainability goals, to your major impacts or anything, but you just, we went and planted some trees with a school nearby, this type of stuff. I cannot talk seriously about that, but unfortunately that's often
it happens.
The case.
Yeah.
So this is out. It's good because it's that doesn't we are not a laughing stock anymore. If you talk about sustainability like that, this is not a real function in the company.
We call that greenwashing, right? That's kind of the
it's really green. They do something nice for the world, but it's immaterial, it's unimportant, and it's not relevant, and it's not serious. So and I think while you have huge emissions or whatever,
it's not going to move the needle.
And you go plant trees, come on. Seriously.
Yeah.
So and so I think that's gone. So this is really gone everywhere. And what I see also in mining in general, everyone, and through my entire career, it was very clear that it's very cynical industry. So you always for me, CEO, I always say that our CEO would always say, Anastasia, show me the money. Where is what's the point of doing that? So, and I think that's the right approach, and we see more of that. And unfortunately, there is not unfortunately, but right now there are a lot of opportunities on efficiency and sustainability. But unfortunately, there are a lot of opportunities on efficiency and sustainability because there is a lot of inefficiency in sustainability.
Right.
So you have
hard to improve because it's so bad.
Yeah, so you have a lot of like bureaucratic like paper exercises that you have to do. So right now with this AI boom, and now every CRO needs an AI story, and sustainability doesn't unlock budgets anymore, but AI unlocks budgets. So what you say is being practical and cynical in the mining industry. What you see is like, I need a budget to actually do this reporting faster and like better, like also understand what our stakeholders want and actually connect to their needs, so that we can become more practical in bringing sustainability initiatives, more value based, more business case based. I need tools for that. If I come and say, well, it's for sustainability, nobody's going to give me a budget. If I come and say it's for efficiency, then it's a different story. This is something that we see a lot. Also, what we see, there is a lot of greenwashing. So greenwashing is like the alternative to like the opposite of greenwashing, where you don't even publicize anything about your green initiatives, because whatever you say is going to be used against you.
On either side, if it's not enough or if it's too much in this environment, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, and like we actually started noticing that in somewhere in the mid 2024, and that a lot of people will say, we just don't want to publicize that, because we will write about it in our sustainability report, but that's it, because whatever we write is going to be tracked. And even if it's genuinely, material, important initiative that we, I don't know, for example, in responsible sourcing that we develop with our suppliers and, finance the green initiatives for our suppliers, so decarbonizing them, etc. We're just not going to do that, because we're still going to be criticized, and it's not worth it, and there won't be any positive. To do communication, you have to have there has to be a reason to do that, right? So you need to expect certain positive outcome, and there won't be any positive outcome, because we just get people who need to know that will know that, and people who don't care, like if we need that for our bank or insurance or whatever application, we will share that, but sharing that with the public doesn't make sense, because we're still going to be trashed. So and I think that's also like this is just the logical development and maturity. And I published this maturity curve that was picked up by a lot of media on sustainability. I think it was picked up because it's very hopeful.
Okay.
It's like ESG is not that, like sustainability it's just maturing. So, but
there you go. Going through its ugly teenager behavior phase. Yeah. Just got to get through high school. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like it's gonna get it's okay. It's maturity. So and like we're cutting everything what's not needed, but I genuinely believe it is. And we see that in the mining space, especially because again, it's extremely practical, extremely money focused industry, especially if you work with traders. I love working with traders. It's amazing. It's they are the most straightforward and
super direct
and direct people, and like if there is a business case, yes, let's work together. If there is no business case, I mean, what's the point of us talking? So it's amazing. And of course that's also this type of behavior is affected in the way they deal with current sustainability trends and what's happening in the world. So yes to efficiency, no to sustainability that is not backed by numbers and business case.
Well, and I guess teeing on to that, there's this proliferation of sustainability reporting standards, which has created a very complex landscape. Like it seems like folks just don't want to stick with one that's already been done. So they just get together with a subset of the industry and they're like, we'll come up with our own and then expect everybody else to adopt that. And it just keeps happening over and over again. And like, could you speak a little bit to that on, what are the reporting challenges and like, how can companies navigate this effectively? Because it's not even like they should be reporting on and complying with one standard. They have to there's a bunch of them to choose from, and same thing, like if you don't do everybody's, then do you get bashed by the folks that are complying with the other standard? Like, it seems like a can't-win situation on that side.
Yeah, and also to make it even more complex, beyond standards, your customers, especially the big ones like Apple's and Tesla of the world, they would ask for things that are relevant to them
Right.
beyond the standard.
And is that like the questionnaire that you talk about? Like, because the big customers will have their own questionnaire on this stuff.
Yeah, like they would have like 50 or 100 pages questionnaire for you.
Wow.
And that's not because they are, unpleasant people or they don't want, they just too stubborn to use the standards. That's because their sustainability strategy, their priorities, their requirements of their stakeholders, and their regulators, also stakeholders, but like they dictate that they ask that and they clarify that from their suppliers. They do that for a reason. And I think they're like, the point is that everyone is fed up, right? You talk to anyone, everyone is like, they seek of all of those history questionnaires, different standards, different ratings. You have to do EcoVadis, you have to do SEDEX, you have to do separate customer questionnaire, you have to do S&P, you have to do Copper Mark, you have to do ICMM, IRMA. Well, now we'll see what happen, but like that's there's like
it's a little bit of drama there for our listeners.
Yeah, so like this is the biggest drama of mining world. So but essentially you have to do a lot of that, and you're still gonna need to respond to customer questionnaires. And I think for quite some time and across the industry there was this belief that we need this one unifying standard. So all of the cases when we had, when somebody says we will just create one unified standard, you just get to 151st standard, and that everyone needs to comply with. And I actually participated in the standard that World Economic Forum released, like the framework that we tried. So that was part of the problem as well. And then at some point you just realize that it's just never gonna work. And
they're gonna happen.
Yeah, never gonna happen. And like there always will be people who will think that this is just not the right one for us. And again, sustainability is it's so massively contextual that everybody will need data in their own way, and that's normal. It's normal that Apple needs data in their own way and Tesla in their own way. That's absolutely normal, right? Because they have different risks, different priorities in their value chain, and so on. So why should they ask the same thing? And and I think while trying to put them in that framework and trying to push them to use one thing, we actually lose the insight, right? So when you what we discussed earlier, right? When you understand what specifically each stakeholder needs from you in sustainability, that creates a huge opportunity for you to capture value, right? To actually gain this premium, because this customer
differentiate your product from everybody else, right?
So they need specifically that, and I know that because I listen to them, I read to what they ask me about, and I understand the difference compared to all of their competitors. So I see what I hear them. So essentially that's like this unique tailoring that you can do. And if you push them onto one standard, like you lose all of that.
You lose all of it.
And then you try to standardize where it's not needed. So when we created Sirius, the philosophy behind was that it's oblivious to think that we will have one standard. There could be some, standardization there, but we will wait more years for that. But in the meantime, every stakeholder deserves to get information in the way that is relevant to them. And it is incredibly valuable to us to actually give them information in that way and learn from it. So like our idea was we need to create this universal adapter, that would take the data that we have and transform it into the format that's relevant to your stakeholder, and then learn like, okay, what are the patterns in this region or for this commodity or other any specific needs for the specific bigger customers that we have, and so on, and actually connect sustainability with business decisions. And this is the point, not the reporting, right? So the fact of responding to the questionnaire, but the fact of serving your stakeholder with the data that is relevant to them and understanding their needs, so your company can get better and capture the value that is there.
Yeah, and that's right. I think it's such a fascinating use case for technology. And of course, everybody says that they're putting AI in everything, but it really is. I mean, you guys are integrating these AI applications into changing, how you do reporting, right? I mean, incredible efficiency gains, pulling out strategic insights by leveraging this tech to go through. It's like both sides are trying to do the right thing. The companies are trying to report on everything that they're doing in the right way. The content is already there, and the customers are trying to tell everybody, here's what we need, right? Here's what we care about. But it's like making them connect. It's like Tinder, more effective Tinder. Sustainability in mining, right? Like, I guess it's more like Nasdaq. I guess because you're putting so many questions in, it's like eHarmony maybe instead of Tinder. But like it's making that matching much more efficient and the communication much more efficient. Yeah. No, I think it's so cool. And maybe just explain for our listeners a little bit like how that works with your company too, because I think it's such a fascinating way to use the tech.
Yeah, thanks. Sure, I love that.
Yeah.
So essentially, for us to be able to share data with stakeholders in whatever way is relevant to them, what we start with, we build like this super elaborated knowledge graph for a company that essentially captures their data on very granular level at asset, corporate, or like product level, and captures these small fragments of data, including numerical and contextual. And it takes data from everywhere. So from your systems, from your commitments, compliance reports, audit reports, certificates, whatever you have and whatever you want to make available for the system. So essentially it works. It's like this, kind of the same system as we use in the brain, right? So this knowledge graph that captures, and we call it sustainability twin, for the lack of better naming. And essentially that is constantly updated, and it becomes this living system where you have all of your sustainability data available. And then once the request comes, or whatever, you have a format that in which you want to report, we have a set of tools that work as this adapter. They essentially go a set of algorithms that could follow certain methodology. If we speak about CDP or EcoVadis or CSRD, etc., where you have like a standardized methodology, how data should be used and found and presented. This set of algorithms would go to your twin, find information, and prefill the form. And then also, essentially, the twin becomes the core of the system, and it's a way to work digitally with both your numerical and contextual data. And what's important there, that you can compare the twin with any sort of requirement, benchmark, or let's say rating requirement, if you know what they expect of you, or a requirement from your bank to meet their green standards, or maybe even legislation, or benchmark with your peers, and benchmark on this deep contextual level, not only numbers. So that's essentially how it works. And our vision is that we will build a network of connected twins so that companies or stakeholders can access, given the permission, given certain disclosure level, that they can access data immediately, without sending a questionnaire, but actually requesting certain positions. And if they have the permissions from the owners of the data, they can access it immediately. So, for example, companies at the OEMs could get data directly from mining companies without all of the intermediaries, and that would also enable much better value distribution across the value chain.
And we would hope then that the mining companies take resources that previously were allocated towards this like duplicative reporting process and put it towards actually like doing the sustainable things, right? Like that's the idea is like, if you're resource constrained and you don't have to spend it on all these 50 million different versions of a report, like take it and go plant more trees.
Nobody becomes a sustainability officer to
Right.
fill out spreadsheets, honestly.
Right.
Like I have I've met a lot of them, and I've never met a single one who enjoyed responding to ESG requests.
They'd all really be out there helping the company do the good stuff, right? I mean, that's what everybody in sustainability wants to do.
You know, and that's so funny. Like we all hate this, but at the same time, it's super important because it's your customers asking you for information. Right. So it's the most important source of the insight, you know?
Yeah.
And like just canceling them out wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not right. You lose the insight. But like finding a way that it's, you know, it's not distracting, but it's actually value creating is our, at least this is our approach.
Yeah, no, I love that. Absolutely. All right. So as we're kind of getting towards the end of the episode, we, you know, especially with these masterclass episodes, we want to give our listeners something practical to take away from the masterclass. So like, what's an immediate action item? Like what should they be doing immediately if they're on the mining company side?
I would say for sure, stop with anything that doesn't create immediate value. Not try to get budget for the things that do not have a strong business case behind them. And unfortunately, right now, the focus is on risks and costs. Mm-hmm. And if there is trouble on getting budget for like value creating initiative, start from that, right? So the good start is always starting from AI efficiency use case. I'm not saying that because I'm CEO of AI company, but I'm saying there's like every CEO right now, I'm not kidding you. This is how Hype works. Every CEO right now needs a strong AI case, and sustainability team have enormous efficiency potential there. Because again, there is a lot of inefficiency there, but you need to be smart on like what tools you implement, etc., that it actually creates this efficiency and that it supports you on unlocking your, your time for more valuable. So it gives you analytics, and it also helps you, demonstrate the invisible work that you were doing that doesn't earn any promotion.
You're doing it anyway.
Yeah. So, and like nobody earns a promotion for doing 100 ESG questionnaires, right? So, but you got to do that. So, like, being smart about that. This is one thing. Second thing is also being very connected to sales teams. I think right now, building that relationship with your sales team, understanding what's important for them, how you as a sustainability team can help them, sales and marketing, right? This is the key for sustainability function becoming a revenue generating function, from overhead to much more meaningful and strategic driver. You'd be surprised how often I see that sustainability teams don't even know their sales. That's very different for traders, right? For traders, this is like a very direct.
Everybody is in sales in trading companies, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter what line, you're all in sales. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that. So there, in a lot of mining companies, sales teams are absolutely separated from sustainability. And I think it's so important to actually build this bridge. And this is the role of sustainability teams. You have to reach out, you have to go, you talk to them, understand how you can help them, etc. And they will be very, very skeptical. These are salespeople. So they will be extremely skeptical unless you build this relationship really and try to demonstrate how others do that, where you can support their sales process, etc. And like learning and understanding that. So that would be my second point. And third, really trying a lot of new tools. And I think that's advice for everyone, even in sustainability function. I think we are on the verge, and everybody understands that already. We just don't accept that, I think. We're on the verge on massive workforce transformation. And there will be won't be replaced by AI. Will be replaced by people who know how to use AI.
True. That's a great
Productivity,
point.
yeah, productivity will grow significantly, and the
Hmm.
expectations for productivity will grow significantly. So the most important thing is to try different tools and find tools for your niche. Again, generic tools don't work very well for cases in the workflows. They work well for, like, I don't know, text writing, emails, and so on,
Yeah.
but they're not going to be embedded in your workflow. Learning how to embed the tools in your workflow and really create, not like 10-minute, not saving 10 minutes a day or saving 5 hours a day on the things
Right.
that can be done by AI. That's very important, and like really understanding what AI can do and cannot,
Hmm.
because there's a bunch of things that AI cannot do. There are a lot of expertise is needed, and where like your core as an employee is,
Yeah.
and it's definitely not in filling out spreadsheets, like
Yeah.
literally.
Right. Yeah.
And also building additional expertise there, right? Especially for for younger employees. I think that's super important, because they are the first to go, right?
Right.
If the efficiency gets to the point where they're no longer needed, this expertise, this unique expertise that they can build with time that AI cannot replicate, this is where their value proposition, and they have to use that their advantage. So
Yeah. No, and I think I always joke, I'm like, if the world is going to be taken over by AI driven robots, let's at least be the people who build the robots, right? So it's like, just saying, oh, everything's going to go terribly wrong, we should stay completely away from it is really not an option anymore at all. And I always encourage folks at the management level, if you control a budget in any way, no matter how small, like be deliberate with your team and set aside a certain amount of money or a certain percentage to try new tools, right? Set aside an budget, even if it's like, $50, $100 a month for your small team, whatever it is, because it makes people more conscious about, every month, let's go out and try out what's new out there in the marketplace, right? If you don't make it part of your budget and you're not paying anything for it, then chances are your team is not valuing it, because everybody is driven by where's the budget allocation, who gets to decide what tools. So like make it a part of your conscious planning that every month, here's how much we're going to spend, or maybe it's time, right? We're going to set aside X number of hours for the team to go on trials of new tools and see what works, right? I really think it's
I
something
think that
small that
this
would
experimental approach is super, is something that is not really valued enough in our industry. This is
Yeah.
something that we had to change when we started startup, right? So this experimental approach is so valuable. It's okay if it doesn't work. Like
Right.
the cost of this mistake is, I don't know, $500, and that's it.
Right.
And like, okay, yeah, you spend time, but you actually gain certain knowledge and maturity
Right.
in this topic that is super important right now. And we also see how maturity grows. So I know I'm digressing, but like we implemented certain tools before, and they were not used by our users because they just didn't know, it wasn't very clear. But then, so we took them out, and then we implemented them again a few months after, where the maturity of people already grew in terms of using AI for text writing, etc. And
Yeah.
it became like a super hit, right? Because people learn very, very quickly, because everyone uses ChatGPT right now, or like Perplexity or whatever. And not doing that with your team, like sitting, like living under a rock, despite the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's like it's not an option, and unfortunately it's not going to help anyone. And if you can fight it, lead it. So
Absolutely. No, I love that. And especially like you said, and it doesn't matter which niche you're in. Like folks are out there developing tools, working on problems for whatever you're doing. So you just, spend a little bit of time looking for it. Well, with the with that, if you could leave, like you gave us some great takeaways, but if there's one piece of advice that you could give folks about improving their approach to sustainability reporting, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say don't focus too much on reporting. The value and sustainability is a different thing, right? So reporting is a supporting tool, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. Like I always say, even at Prospector, like we deal with the data so you don't have to, right? You focus on the decisions that you need to make with the data, right? Let us focus on getting all the data in one place and all the boring stuff about how it's structured and how it's stored and all that, right? And same with you, like don't focus on the reporting, focus on the doing. Let us help you with
we
the
recently
reporting.
published our manifesto that starts with the end of reporting.
There you go. Yeah. Love it.
It's a bit, I mean, it's quite controversial, so I'm open to be trashed, but I think it's our vision. Yeah,
exactly. If you're not doing something totally different, right, you're not gonna move the massive like cruise ship that is the mining industry, right? If you're not overcorrecting a little bit. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Really, really enjoy it. And I really encourage everybody to go check out what you and your team are doing, because I 100% agree. All the folks in our industry who are so passionate about sustainability, they're probably not passionate about sustainability reporting. So go see how you can spend more of your time on doing and less on reporting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, it was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the On the Rocks Masterclass series. If you've enjoyed today's discussion on mining sustainability intelligence, be sure to check out our other episodes featuring industry experts and thought leaders. If you're interested in being a guest or sponsoring an episode of On the Rocks, please email us at media@prospectorportal.com. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or follow us on social media for another round of On the Rocks coming up soon. See you there.